Hey, you all know we're in insurance. We do a lot of training. So this morning we talked about code coverage, which sounds super boring, right? Like, who cares about what's going on in municipal code right now? And it puts me to sleep, frankly, right? But one of the things we talked about was, can you even get a new roof? Because in North Texas, we know on average, people get a new roof every 7 years. Now, with all of the things that we've been seeing going on, especially kind of that 121, 380 corridor, we've been seeing roofs getting replaced more frequently. We're seeing 1 year. We've had a couple of clients where their roof just gets totaled out the year after it's been replaced. That's really bad, right? We see some people 3 to 5, but on average, North Texas, we know that you're going to get a new roof about every 7 years. So, where does code come into play with that? And where does code coverage come into play with that? Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Christopher Carr from 100% Construction and Roofing, because he did a video of Facebook Live a couple weeks ago. And I think he covered it really well, and he covered it in depth. I'm not going to go that in depth, but I'm going to give you some of the high points, right? So, decking, right? That's what goes under the underlayment there, whatever that might be, the felt or the radiant barrier, and then under the shingles, right? And then you have your roof structure. And so code changes over time. And a lot of times, as a Plano resident and as a homeowner, I think that code change is arbitrary, and it's just a way for Plano to make $120. I know people are going to chime in and they're going to say, well, they lose money on it. Fine. But it definitely feels like justifying a bureaucracy a lot of times, right? We ran into an instance where we had to re-brick our house. That was a real fiscal nightmare. But you have to use brick ties. And the inspector kept coming out. He's like, you don't have enough brick ties. And the stud was completely silver. Like, you couldn't see any stud on the stud, right? It's all brick ties. I'm like, where am I going to put more? So I think that's probably where my bias of it being semi-arbitrary comes from. But I digress. As it comes to roofing, back in the day, whenever that was, right, decking could be thinner, shallower. It didn't have to have the same thickness as it does today, right? So that's what was acceptable at that time. Well, now that's changed. The decking needs to be thicker, because when firefighters have to get onto your roof and they have to cut their ventilation, if it's not thick enough and they're wearing the self-contained breathing apparatus and they've got their axes and they've got their helmets and their turnouts and everything else, right? That's a lot of weight on somebody that's probably already in pretty good shape, carrying around a little bit of weight and muscle, right? So there's a big falling hazard for them. So as they're trying to save and salvage your property and save your life, at the same time, we're putting their lives in peril and risk if they're to fall through. So that's one reason. And that's really why code changes, right? That's the big one. Is it's a safety consideration. It's a safety concern. And like everything else, it's a safety concern because we've seen what happens when we don't abide by that, right? So that's number one. But the other thing that's pretty interesting is every time you go put a new roof on, right, you're nailing it. So in essence, you're continuously perforating your decking, right? You're continuously perforating it. And what happens, like on a checkbook, right? When you have your checks here, you have the perforation and you tear it out, right? We don't want your decking tearing off, and we certainly don't want those shingles flying out anytime moderate wind comes along. So what's that mean for the homeowners? Well, the decking most likely wasn't damaged in the hailstorm, right? The shingles take that impact. So insurance's job is to repair and replace and or replace damaged materials, right? So the shingles are damaged. The insurance policy is doing what it's supposed to do. It's removing the damaged material and it's replacing it with undamaged material, making you whole, right? The decking that's underneath it there, that's not really a part of your claim. That's not a part of what the insurance policy, that's anybody's insurance policy, is really responsible for. That's more of a maintenance issue, right? We know that homes age. We know that things change. That's our responsibility as homeowners to take care of the maintenance, right? So now we're faced with this really expensive problem because the roofer's looking at you saying, hey, I can't nail in to that decking. Like, it's just like sponge, right? It's been nailed so many times. My house was built in 1978, okay? Very central Plano area. That roof has most likely been replaced 7 times, right? That's a lot of nails going into a roof. If your house was built in 1990, that's 23 years, right? If I'm doing my math right here. I take that back. Is that right? 23, 33, 30, 23 years. 33 years. Holy cow. 33 years. Sorry, I haven't had my caffeine today. So over 33 years, every seven, you're approaching almost five times, right? Almost five times that roof has been replaced. And so that's just a lot of damage that goes on to that. So you have problem number one, right? Hey, I can't nail into this. Problem number two is when the code inspector comes out, they go, hey, that's out of code. It's got to be replaced. Now, decking is very expensive, right? If you've been to the Home Depot or Lowe's lately, you know that decking is very expensive. I think Chris Carr estimated it, like if you were to redo all your decking, and Chris, if I'm misquoting you, I'm really sorry, had it at like close to $35,000, I think, to redo the decking. It's pretty expensive, right? It's pretty expensive to carry those things. So what some insurance policies have is something that is called code coverage, right? So when you have a claim and it is a actual claim that's covered by your insurance policy, and we can go into, all perils and name perils, but if it's something that's covered by your insurance policy, and they say, hey, we got to replace your roof, and they take the shingles off, and the code inspector and the roofer are both like, hey, we can't do anything with this decking. Well, if you have this code coverage, then it allows your insurance policy to fill that gap. So it's an endorsement, and endorsements are like Band-Aids for insurance policies. They add to and they cover gaps. And so I think in a lot of circumstances, this would be important no matter what. If your kitchen caught fire, and the insurance company came in and they repaired and they replaced everything that was damaged to that fire, but the code inspector found something in your home that was out of code and you couldn't get a certificate of occupancy and you couldn't move into your home, that's a pretty big problem. Now, how often does that happen? It does. Old breaker panels, right? Old things like that. It happens. But where we really see it in North Texas is on the roof, right? So is it expensive? No, right? It's not. It's not terribly expensive to add this to your policy. As a matter of fact, I would always argue that having the right coverage is less costly than having the wrong coverage, because everybody's covered to 100%. The question is, who's writing the check, right? Are you writing the check, or is the insurance company writing the check? And so this is something that I'd highly advocate for. I know we're not really in hail season, but as we go through training and digging in and really wrestling with the policies that we present, making sure that we know all the nooks and crannies and the yeses and the nos and the goes and the no-goes and everything else that happens inside of an insurance policy. This came up today, and I do think it's really important for you to look at your policy. I think it's important for you to go over your policy with your insurance agent. Katie's here at the agency now for that very reason, right? So that we can go over your coverages and make sure that they meet your needs and make sure that you understand what you're buying, why you're buying it, and how it's going to perform at claims time. Because at the end of the day, you as a consumer don't have the insurance license. That means the burden is on us to make sure that you understand those things so that you have the insurance policy that's going to perform the way that you want it to at claims time. So thanks for watching for 8 minutes and 20-ish seconds. I hope this was helpful. If so, leave a comment and let me know. This is something I want to do more often, just so that people that are here and are my Facebook friends and also my off Facebook friends that see these videos can have a better understanding of what insurance is and what it does and how we should expect it to perform. So have a great Wednesday. Stay cool. I think we got like a 6-degree break today, so it almost feels cold outside. I had to go do an inspection for a fire hydrant again. I actually had the windows down because I'm like, man, it's actually kind of a nice day outside. I think it's like 94 at that point. So it felt pretty good. A little windy, felt good. So stay safe, stay hydrated. Have a great day. If you have any questions, we're always here to help with biology. Talk to you later.